So good evening, everybody. It's wonderful to be here, and it's certainly a thrill. I'm Ron Prince. I'm the editor of British Cinematographer magazine, and I'm delighted to moderate this conversation with Dick Pope regarding his work on Motherless, Brooklyn. Now, most of you must already know or be inspired by the beautiful cinematographic works that Dick has created over the years. Amongst his 60 long-form narrative credits, he's won or been nominated for many prestigious awards, including BAFTAs, BIFAs, BSC Awards, ASC Awards, and Academy Awards. Dick has been twice nominated for the Oscars, for The Illusionist in 2007 and Mr. Turner in 2014. He's been nominated 11 times at Camera Image, which is quite remarkable, winning 5 times. And those, Dick, if you don't mind me going through those: the 1996 Golden Frog for Mike Leigh's Secrets and Lies, the 2004 Golden Frog for Mike Leigh's Vera Drake. In 1999, Dick and Mike collected the Camera Image Director and Cinematographer Duo Award. Dick also received a 2006 Silver Frog for The Illusionist, and in 2018 he was awarded the Fipresci Prize, which is a critics' prize, for his work on Peterloo. And I have to say, along with all of those, one of my favourite films, probably in my top 5, is Topsy Turvy, which he did with Mike in 1999. That's one of my favourite all-time films. So I'm going to kick things off with a few questions. We did in fact have some questions that came over from far, far away, from Roger Deakins, who I know you're a great friend of Roger's, and you were meant to do this a week before with Roger, but sadly Roger had to go back. But
I think it's good that he went, actually.
Oh well, we have got some questions from Roger.
I'd have ended up asking him more about 1917 than my film.
So please don't be shy in asking questions. We're going to open up the questions to you guys, because it's not just my conversation, it's your conversation also with Dick, and I know that he's very keen to share his experiences with you. So if you put your hands up, and the microphone will find its way to you, and if you can, well, not just yet, that's great enthusiasm, thank you. We'll come to you for the first question later on. Yes, if you can wait for the microphone to turn up, because we're recording it, and off we go. So, Dick, obviously, one thing that people may not know is that you have a long-term relationship with Edward Norton that goes back many, many, many years. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Give us some background into that.
He was the lead in The Illusionist, and that's where I first met him. And we kind of hit it off. We didn't really hang out together because it was intense shoot and all hours. So, but we had a good relationship, repartee on set. And we chewed the fat together quite a lot and got on well together. And so he kept in touch after. And in fact, he tried to get me onto a film that he was making not long after that, say a year later. Tried to get me, but he was an actor on that, not directing it. So I didn't get it in the end, but he put me up for it. Yeah. And he stayed in touch, and sometimes we would bump into each other at different events. And and then it became more serious about 5 years ago with this. First sent me the script and talked to me about shooting it, and it kind of went away. It didn't happen then, and the finance didn't come together. They didn't pull it off, and I thought, well, it's gone away, you know. Then it came back about twice more, and then finally. After I shot Peterloo, I was in Africa doing a film for Chiwetel Ejiofor, the boy who harnessed the wind. And while there, I got this call, this frantic call from New York asking me whether I would, I don't think it was Edward on the phone. Was it Edward on the phone? I can't remember, but I did eventually have a conversation with Edward in my really grotty room in this extraordinary grotty hotel in the north of Malawi. And we had the conversation, and he was going. And he was really worrying that I could handle it coming straight out of this experience in Africa and immediately getting on a plane and going to New York and you know, attacking winter there and arriving in late December. I was going to miss a little bit of prep. And he said, you know, would you entertain it? Of course, I said, yeah, of course, yeah. I'd be delighted to, no problem. So I came back to London and got on a plane and went straight to New York.
Superb, superb.
And that's how it happened.
The film has, you know, obviously some very distinctive looks, and that I think came from Edward himself. Can you tell me a little bit about that and this amazing lookbook that he had? Yeah,
well, the look of the film is not exactly. It was more of an inspirational thing, really, of stuff that he had collected over a period of time, which largely involved photographs, still photographs. It wasn't what is on the screen now, because they were mostly in black and white, and 40s, 50s, early 60s New York, by New York street photographers, like Saul Leiter and Vivian Mayer, Robert Frank, Gary Winogrand, a whole plethora of them, and as well as many stills, uncredited, anonymous stills, which were almost just as good, of New York at that period. And that was our main source of kind of dialogue, so to speak, at the beginning when we first started talking about it in New York, were these stills. And in fact, interesting really, because in the end we reenacted about 8 or 9 of them for the film, took them off the page, off the print, and reproduced them on the film. One of them is in Penn Station, when the camera's tracking forward, Edward's walking across the concourse, and there's a woman there sitting, smoking a cigarette on a suitcase. It was a still. And then he walks around the corner to go to the lockers, and there's this couple, you know, heavily embracing on the corner. It was a still. And there was one earlier in the film where, like the hat shop next to where Willem Dafoe's flat is. Yeah. That hat shop was an absolute reproduction of a 50s photograph. Yeah. It gave it a really, and there were a few more, but like the sleeping newspaper vendor sitting behind his stall. They just give it a quirky, they ground it in a way. Yeah. Ground it, give it a reality, which if you just dismissed those and went for your own, you wouldn't have that. The film is quite quirky, you know, it's a strange film. It's not straight up in a way. Yeah. It's got many facets to it. It's quite intriguing, really. It's not just a straight narrative.
There was a couple of shots that I thought, wow, that looked like an Edward Hopper painting. Was that was Hopper's artistic works? Were they? We didn't look at Hopper very much together, but I mean we referenced it sometimes. But I suppose by now it's in the DNA, because Hopper is one of Mike Lee and mine favourite painters, and we're always sharing. I think, it looks very Edward Hopper-like, you know. But that's a matter of set decoration, production design, everything goes into it, and of course the period clothes. And then you just pull the camera back, and suddenly you're looking at what you could describe as an Edward Hopper. Yeah. Like people talk about, say, a face in front of in a window, standing in a window, and if you go back and there's the window, there's the face, people say, oh, it's quite Vermeer looking. You know, for me it's not, but you know, the nearest it was like to Nighthawks, when the camera's outside the diner when he's giving Willem Dafoe a free meal, and they're sitting in the neon lit diner. But you know, we didn't really think about Hopper then. We needed a wide shot, and we couldn't get back enough, so we went outside, and suddenly you're looking at something that might be evoked as a Hopper. Sure. Well, this certainly looks very beautiful. This is actually, the next question is a Roger Deakins question, which is, did you ever consider shooting this film on film? And why not?
Well, that, if you don't mind me saying so, that's a really loaded question from Roger. Him being the #1 advocate for digital.
Yeah.
Did I ever consider it? Yeah, well, no, because it was a given. Right from the outset, it was a given. I can't remember any discussion about it. It was the Alexa and that was that. I think Edward wanted, because he was directing, he wanted as good an image as he could possibly get, as final an image as he could when he was reviewing what he had just been on the floor out front acting in. He wanted it as good as it could get, and that and many other reasons to do with the sheer heavy nature of the CG work. I think this came out of the VFX supervisor, VFX guy who was I think he's a genius, Mark Russell, who did all of that work. It came from him as well. I think that the opinion was, let's shoot it on film. But I get more and more frustrated by the question about film versus digital. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I wish it would go to bed. But, I mean, it's been now we're 10 years in from when the Alexa, I mean, I used it in the first year it was out, like a prototype. But it's so established now. But people still harp on about, wouldn't it have been better if you'd shot it on film? Don't you miss shooting on film? Well, the answer is most often no. I love what I do. Sometimes now I'm beginning to get slightly frustrated with the size and electronic technicality of the new generation cameras. I have to say, they're like a spaghetti minefield for me. And a part of me does hark back to a more simple approach, a more pure approach of a camera, a wire that went to the battery, a lens on the front, and a roll of film in the magazine. I mean, there is something about that. Yeah. If it gets, now the choices are so great, lenses, formats, everything kind of builds up, and I wish it wouldn't in a way. I wish it was sleeker, smaller, which they always promise, but now it seems to be much bigger. Yeah. At the beginning, it was like supposed to be very small, very holdable, very hand-holdable, and very sleek. But now it's grown and grown. It's partly what the AC's put on the front as well. I'm always rucking about it, about how much stuff they put on.
Sure, yeah.
Everybody's got to put their stuff on. The DIT's in there, the sounder in there, everybody's in there putting their stuff on the camera, and it does drive me mad. Because if you want to strip it down, it takes forever.
Sure, yeah.
And building it's one thing, but stripping it down and trying to use it in a handheld or in a car or whatever, it takes forever. So on this film, I had a dedicated stripped-down camera ready to go at all times that we could use without the time spent in dealing with it.
Yeah. So given that obviously you were shooting with Alexa and thinking about the looks that you wanted to achieve in the film, how did you go about deciding firstly the aspect ratio? Yeah. But then also your lens choice.
But if it had been, when you said Alexa, with the Alexa, if it had been on a film camera, it wouldn't have made a blind bit of difference to me as to how I approach anything. Yeah, I remember I spent years doing film, and before I did film, I did, music videos, concerts, and before that 15 years in documentaries. I've had a lifetime of film. So I don't look back on it with any nostalgia whatsoever. There's none of that. I think for people who haven't been, shooting for the length that I have, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing, celluloid, to get hold of. But I haven't got that nostalgia. It's partly been beaten out of me over the years, and I'm happy to embrace the digital. And here's the bottom line: I go to the cinema, and I sit there. I'll sit here or wherever at a screening. I'm not talking about at home on a big screen, and I'm damned if a lot of the time I can tell whether it's shot on digital or film. And often I'll go back home and go to IMDb and look up the tech specs. Yeah. Oh, look at that. That was on digital. I thought it was on film. Well, that was on film. I thought it was digital. So in the end, I'm not quite sure. I don't think it's about, really for me, it's not about the results. It's about the evocation and the purest thing, the film being, it's like it. But when people talk about it, wouldn't you have rather been on digital? They're often talking about it like, the true cinematographer would have photographed this on film. Well, I know what I feel about that. I think that's rubbish. And sure, it's a choice, but it's not often a choice. Not for me. I work on quite a few low-budget films, and film is more expensive. There is no question about it. I've brought it up several times in the last few years, and it's tens of thousands, more than that, to shoot on film, even on Super 16 against digital. So it's not quite so straightforward as an aesthetic choice. It's also a budgetary finance choice with the producers. Carry on. I had to get that out.
Well, yeah. I think that's a very good answer to Roger's question.
Yeah.
It was. I just wanted to sort of just dip into, given your discussions with Edward, and obviously you've seen the locations and shooting in New York, how you arrived at the aspect ratio and the particular lenses, because you selected particular lenses, didn't you, for this?
Yeah, there's been a lot of press about me using Cooke S4s when I didn't use Cooke S4s. I mean, IMDb, my favourite, they had it on their website, and I got that changed because that really upset me, because it wasn't S4s, it was the new Cooke Speed Pancros, the iPancro Classics or whatever it's called. And because I used the original, the TLS mounted ones on Mr. Turner. I really like using them. I love the look.
Yep.
And they immediately give the film a vintage look. They've got lens aberrations, fall off. They're not quite. They're not quite right. There's something wacky and quirky about them, which I really like. And so as soon as they came out, I had a hard job getting them for the film, but I did manage to, from London. In fact, it was my friends at Movie Tech. They'd bought a set and they sent them over to New York, and I used those as well, because it was a 2-camera shoot, so there was another set that finally came together in America, but the Movie Tech set out of London was with me from the moment I started testing.
And the aspect ratio, you went with?
It was 185 because New York lends
to go
itself.
widescreen.
Yeah, no,
anyway?
widescreen could have been one. Well, I just felt it was a more intimate story than that. It was about Lionel, in Lionel, and New York is about up there, and the height and the buildings and interiors as well. That grand height, rather than the width. So we never really talked about it much. It seemed like the right choice to me to go 185.
Did you do any work on lookup table LUTs to put
Well, yes,
on the shoot?
Big time. Adam Inglis, the colorist I use and have done for a number of years. Adam was in London, and in fact he was timing Peterloo in London. So I did tests in New York and basically sent them back to him in London. And we talked on the phone and watched them, and I reviewed what he was doing, and we came up with these LUTs. And yeah, I did. and I never really experienced anything but the picture with the LUT on. I mean, nobody on the set saw the raw, so to speak. Everything was with the LUT. So we were all on the same page, and that was through the tests and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you went back to New York to do the
Went back
final
4
grade,
times.
is that right?
Yeah, but I went back. We did other shooting, stuff that we couldn't do at the time. We just couldn't do it. So did go back, and we did time the film in New York. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, near obviously where Edward was,
Sure.
because he was very much a part of that process.
So I have another Rogers question. Some cinematographers and some actors don't like to review what they're doing on the set. Did you study the playback a lot, and how did Edward judge his performance?
Well, Edward judged his performance by reviewing it on the monitor. I mean, he often knew himself before he even looked at it, but it was really useful to him, not just for him, but when he was in a scene and there were other actors involved, he was able to review their performance as well. So it was reviewing the whole thing really, and my performance as well. So it was everything. And yeah, he reviewed it. But you know, quite often he would shoot and shoot and shoot without going to that monitor. I mean, we had a very tight schedule, 46 days to do a period film like that in New York with everything that entails. That's very complicated, and we had a lot of locations, as you've just seen. And you know, 46 days is tight, and you know, overtime is not really something you do, because you have to get the work in during the day, especially in the States. They expect you to, you know, complete the days. That's a big thing, and complete the days we did. And so there was only occasional going there. He would review quite a few takes at the same time. Yeah. So then there'd be a lull while everybody just took a breather, while he looked at, say, 4 or 5 in a row. And sometimes he said, "Yeah, well, let's move on."
What I mean, I can only imagine, but you know, at one, because he's a producer, he's a writer.
Yeah.
He's acting in it as well. How does can you just give us an idea of how, you know, how can someone switch from being a director one moment to an actor? How did he do it?
Well, he did it effortlessly, without a moment's hesitation, and he would just leap out there from one moment directing from behind the camera, setting it, and he would be Lionel. He would turn into Lionel, drop of a hat, yeah. And he would get out there and be that person, and it was a pleasure to watch it. I could say it was quite extraordinary. I've never seen anything quite like that. The way he would just go in there, but also he was very intuitive, because he's got so much acting experience with so many directors, and so many different DPs as well. I mean, he's worked with, Harris Silvides, Fight Club, God, he's worked with some greats. And he's got this intuitive knowledge, really, or DNA about where the camera is. 2 cameras, always 2 on this film, nearly always 2. Right. And where that camera was, what lenses we were on, and then you could feel him, I could feel him swinging it towards the left, swinging it towards the right, edging it so that it was better for her or him or whatever. It was just brilliant to watch. He's really self-assured like that.
Were you operated, were you on A or B?
B. Okay. Oh yeah, I did B. Yeah. A as a master camera, it was such a lit film. Deakins would completely disagree with me. Of course he would, and we've had the argument many times. But I always operate. I operate on most every film I do. But if it's lit like that and it's got a certain budget and what's expected of me in the time allocated, and big lighting setups, yeah, I'll take B, thank you. Which I'll leap onto at the very last moment, it having been set up for me, and just wing it. which is what I really love doing because it's out the documentary days, and that's what I love doing. I love winging stuff, and B camera is always on the tighter lens. A camera is always the more formal one, and the master, as I said before, but B camera is more exciting in many ways. We all know that, and good things come out of the B camera, so I would be on B, always, on a longer lens.
Did you feel tempted to go to shoot the whole movie handheld?
No, never. Didn't cross my mind once. I don't think it's that sort of film. It could have been, I mean, I went to see Uncut Gems the other day, and it's completely handheld, and it's absolutely fantastic, and I loved the film. But it wasn't the right way of shooting ours. There is handheld in the film, of course, there is handheld. There's handheld in a number of different places, and there's Steadicam, and there's there's a load of different shooting styles, not styles, but shooting modes. But handheld throughout, no, not something I'm really into, really. I mean, if you consider Moses Randolph's office, you know, that big office and the bridges outside, and the stillness of him in the room with Lionel, I don't see that as being handheld. I didn't see that. You could have done the club more handheld, I suppose, but we were on Steadicam anyway and moving it around. No.
Yeah, it was a nice evolution around them as they're dancing.
Yeah,
that
that
was
Steadicam, yeah.
Okay.
I think we did it on track and Steadicam, mixture of the two as they cross.
You went to some amazing locations.
Yes.
In this film, absolutely amazing. Although not all of them are real, but can you tell us about that? So it seems that Edward did he pull some strings to get into various places?
Oh, I think he just showed up.
And they let him in.
Yeah, and they opened the door. And he is so loved in New York. You can't walk down the street with him. I mean, it's just impossible to go to a meal with him or anything, unless he's in the corner tucked away. Yeah. He's really loved there. He's a New Yorker and he supports New York. I mean, he was part of the committee that inaugurated the High Line right back then. I mean, he's like so New York, and it involved as an activist in many, running in the New York Marathon, everything. He's a real boy of the city.
Right.
So he did open a lot of doors, and by God, we did shoot in a lot of places that had never really been shot in before. I mean, they've been shot in, but not the access we had, like New York Public Library and the Supreme Court, New York Supreme Court. Yeah. I mean, fantastic stuff. The New York Academy of Medicine, which is like our main medicine place in London. That's where Moses Randolph office was. Right. It was this fabulous building on Fifth Avenue, believe it or not with a view of a bridge outside and the Hudson River, but that was CG'd onto it later on, and very brilliantly too, I think.
Right. Yes, that attests to because you mentioned Mike Russell, the VFX supervisor.
Yeah. We came up with this thing. It was partly me talking to Roger, because we met most weekends there and had a meal together because he was shooting Goldfinch at the same time. And he was talking to me about keying off white. And that's not something I'd ever done before. It's always, for me, blue and green.
Yeah.
But he talked a lot to me about car interiors being keying off white outside, thereby no green or blue reflections on glass and seats and people and clothes and everything. I just didn't really understand how you could do that. But after we talked about this, I talked to Mark Russell about it. And yes, it's tricky, but it's possible. So when we came to shoot in that magnificent room in this Institute of Medicine on Fifth Avenue, I got them to basically put tracing paper, diffusion, on every pane of glass in the whole room, and there was like hundreds of them. because I wanted to bring the light in from outside and make it real, which is my thing. Keeping it real is what it's all about for me. So I brought in light from outside and it wasn't even on the ground floor. It's like second story.
Wow.
It was right up in the air. So I had to have enormous condors, cherry pickers outside with very large lamps on them, 18s or whatever, and come through my diffusion on all the windows, and on both sides. And so then they keyed off that and replaced it with the plates of the bridge, Triborough Bridge and Hudson River, which is pretty cool, really, because that's how I got the look inside the big room. But I retained the look, the soft look from the outside, without having the nightmare of. I couldn't have done it off blue or green. It was impossible. So that was the only way to go, really.
Oh, that's fabulous. I mean, that was a beautiful looking shot.
Yeah.
Of obviously cinematography and visual effects working hand in hand. Penn Station was another big visual effects shot. Is that right?
Yes, it was. When Edward and I first looked at these photographs of New York, we looked at Penn Station, ripped down in 1963, a bit like our Euston Station, and a tragedy, because it was double magnificent to Central. Was it? Sorry.
Central Station.
Yeah, Central Station.
Yeah.
Double. I mean, it had the most incredible glass roof. And all these photographs that I saw, which were press or anonymous press photographs, whatever, of the time, all had these beams of light, which obviously attracted the photographers. Beams of light coming through the stained glass, not stained glass, through the glass skylights, and coming down, straight beams of light hitting the floor. And the rest of the concourse was quite dark. It would be cut by the light. They were exposing for the bright light. And the rest of it, everything would fall away. So I took those. I mean, that became my Bible. As soon as I saw these photographs, I thought, my God, that's the way to do it. Because there was no set. And so I put xenons up, big xenons. I think there was 7K, and high up on this stage, and created these beams of light right throughout the concourse. And then Mark picked those up, and they didn't change the floor, but there was no set. It was just a big blue, green screen all the way round the set, and that was that. He put in the Penn Station around that, and the skylights. I didn't have anything. All we had was the concourse, big stage, so we had all the lockers and the benches and the paraphernalia of people and whatever, and people. But the rest of the set, and it was married on the floor while we were shooting. Right. Mark had a VER system there, a VER company system, where he could take any point that we were on that stage and any angle, because we shot it off a crane mostly. We'd be right up in the air, and he would have more stuff on the camera, marking out where we were. Yeah. And he could bring that up on his displays. He had a group of technicians there, and they could bring up what it was going to be like rendered in the end. Right. So you could see it live, and very exciting it was too, because obviously it's quite depressing to be shooting on nothing, which is what it was, apart from the props. So you saw it, and I refined my lighting according to the way that he had that on the monitors on the floor. I would make adjustments to keep that. So it's like pre-visualized comp. Yes, it is in a way. But they did it off of plans and drawings of the real Penn Station. They had it all down, all the original architects' plans, and they built Penn Station in CG from those architects' plans. Beautiful. I thought it was. I thought that was a triumph. It made me gasp when I first saw it.
Did you shoot? Obviously, you shot around the locations in New York, but you had to have various trips out to Long Island to shoot in long trips to Long Island.
Bloody murderous trips to Long Island in the snow to get to this stage where we were filming was an hour away from Manhattan.
Yeah.
Once you'd got through the tunnel, and an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, it was murder, and it was always solid. But the stages there were the only ones that were available to us,
Right.
and that was the end of that. I had to just get on with it. And but what we were doing on them was fun, and there was quite a lot of stage work. There was a lot of car work on the stage, a lot of you know, the whole fire escape and ending outside the exterior of the fire escape, and the giant hanging off and all that. That was all a build, and there were, you know, Laura's apartment, Edward's apartment, Lionel's apartment. I mean, it's quite a lot of mixture of the two,
Sure.
stage and location.
Did you shoot in continuity order?
No, not really. We did kick off the beginning of the schedule. The first day was the first scene of the car sitting there with the two of them in the car and him unravelling his jumper. That's what we did first. So we did do the car, the front of the film first. I think they wanted to show, you know, the backers that there was some exciting stuff and didn't want to just have dialogue scenes, but a bit of action. So we did all that first.
Right.
And that took forever, that did, because it was involved, that car chase was right across Harlem. Carefully chosen blocks that were still intact, needed minimal amount of work. So yeah, we obviously had to be very selective in what we looked at, because New York's not like that. You've got more chance in Brooklyn and
Sure,
Harlem really than Manhattan. Manhattan better for the interiors, but the exteriors were mostly in Harlem and Brooklyn.
Right. And obviously, a question about the lighting. And Roger got two questions actually about the lighting here. He wanted to perhaps find out, or we all want to find out a bit more about how you shot the night and the day scenes in the L&L agency where.
What the
where Lionel works.
detective agency?
Yeah, in the detective agency. How you went about shooting those?
You know, I always go to any stage work. I always shoot it as if I was on location anyway. I don't play games with the fact that I've got more space, more openness, say from the top, whatever, with which to light. For me, it doesn't work. I have to. I suppose it's all the years of documentary and location shooting, like with Mike Lee. Everything's location. He doesn't know what a stage is, Mike. So it's all on location. So, you know, at that location, I shot it just as if I was on a real location. It was a hard ceiling because we wanted to look at the ceiling quite a lot. So the ceiling didn't fold back, and I couldn't light from up there. At night, I attached small units like China balls and quasars, dimmable quasars, to the headers that they put in, and hid stuff behind the headers. But all the day work was through the windows, and trying to balance the view outside, which I was involved in too, in getting them to put big photographic plates of the street where he walks down. The idea was the street he's always walking down, where that sleeping newspaper guy was and the kid selling the newspapers, and he passes this cafe and crosses the road to the agency.
Yeah.
We put that outside the windows as big, big plates, and I was able to light those day or night, and but they had the reality of when he was walking, that we were looking at him out there. So I had to find the balance between what was coming in and what we were looking out, and I let the outside during the day burn a bit, so it looked real. So we weren't seeing too much detail. The more you bring it down, and the more hokey it looks to me. So just so that you could discern detail in it, but bright.
And the other
Oh,
one.
well, obviously, and it was sunlight as well, and slatted blinds, and we had a lot of fun creating those effects within there, and cars passing.
Yeah.
Bounced off silver so that we would sweep it over Edward when he was at his desk for that one scene where the cars were passing and the sun was out. And then he opens the blind and looks at the traitor
Yes.
going across the road and going in and making the phone call he shouldn't have been making.
Yeah.
And that, of course, was the real place we photographed from a tower across the road in the street that we were filming on, as if from the window of the L&L agency.
Shooting the jazz club scene, obviously that's quite a different kettle of fish, because it's. I think you found a beaten up old location that had to be dusted down and made to look like a jazz club again.
Yeah, but it was. You see, it was a jazz club. I've made the most amazing find. It was the most amazing find. They had been scouting that very block before I even arrived.
Yeah.
I mean, this was. Edward, if I ever saw him excited, he was like overexcited about this, because they were scouting it and thinking they would shoot there because they loved it. When Laura comes out of her building and he's over the road drinking a cup of coffee and he follows her to the subway, that magnificent block of brownstones, he wanted to shoot there. And and the entrance was where Laura's apartment was. You go up the stairs and then it became a build and we were in a stage and up the stairs more and we were on a stage, but the whole sort of period aspect of that building and the surrounding buildings was really good. And then he discovered that this blooming place was there right in front of where she was going to live. Yeah. And it was a real jazz club, abandoned for 20 years and in a very sad condition, but it was all there. Zinc plate ceiling, bar, just absolutely, and the stage, the little stage at the end. We didn't change anything, actually. They just brought it back to life and made it as if it was a happening place in the 50s. Yeah. So we didn't really tamper with the layout very much at all. That's what it was. One small entrance, you had to duck down to get in, and it was a real hot spot back then.
How did you go about
the King Rooster.
How did you go about lighting it?
That was tricky. There was a lot of units at play. Well, I think, there was a lot of units at play, but I was just being true to what the space was. I didn't really do anything but keep it real. In my head, that's what I was doing, with the lights down the bar and, quite dark inside, especially when he first goes there, when he's asking about, when he first goes and visits there and sees Laura's father, uncle. But the stage was interesting because there was no height to it. It was absolutely, literally like this, there. Absolutely, it was no higher than that. I could put a screwdriver up and just like this. And the band were playing there. But there was no way to hide the lamps. The lamps had to be on show because we, amongst other things, we swirl round the couple and we shoot the band in many. They had to be real. So I got them to go out and find 1940s, 1940s stage lights, which were really tatty, in a terrible condition that they found in some lighting company, stage theatre companies' back rooms, and they were brushed up a bit, and but they were incredibly, horrible to use. All they had was a screw on them, and so I drove everybody completely insane with this. I would decide to put one there, say on the trumpeter, the Miles Davis type character, and that would work. And then there'd be another track or whatever where it didn't work, so they had to get in there, unscrew it from the ceiling, because it didn't pan and tilt. It was absolutely up there and on. And so I had to get them up there and move it over there, when I got a chance. And I had about 6 or 7 of them. I covered the band in them. But they were the real deal. And they were 40s lamps and looked like 40s lamps. And just the light they gave is so beautiful. So I'm really pleased I did it. And I wouldn't know where I'd have begun if I didn't have access to those lights and had to use modern ones. I don't know where I'd have gone to do it. I'd have had to make cages up for them to disguise them as old lamps.
Yeah.
So that was more or less it.
Didn't
A
you-
lot of different units. A
Yeah.
lot of different units were playing in there.
And amongst some of the other, because I think you set your gaffer the challenge of finding some Wendy's.
Yes, I wanted to use a Wendy for New York streets. I didn't want any of their lights. they're massive, you know, those great big things that have got 6 to 9 lights on them and poking in every direction and their HMI and all that. I didn't want any of that. I wanted to use Wendy, which is what I'm used to. And I got Bill, a brilliant gaffer I use out there, and he went off and ages to find, and they found one rusting away again in some, you know, nobody's using them. They're all using the latest stuff. So we got that out, and Bill got the guys to bring it back to shape, and I used it on every night,
Right.
every night thing. That was my main source, main light. It's on every single night thing. But the biggest challenge, Edward had got a bee in his bonnet about where that scene where it's very noirish, that scene. Edward comes up, he's like the typical private eye, like Dick Powell. He comes up to the corner of the building and sticks his head round, and William Dafoe is there waiting, and then Moses comes up in his car, and they have it out underneath the canopy of
of his apartment. Yeah.
Well, this is just over the road. Edward could almost see this from his apartment. And he'd walked past it so many times. He had it in his head. It had to be there. There was no talking him out of it. And he wanted it. It's in the script. He wanted this intense beam of light coming out as if from the foyer of the apartment building, which is what it was, where Moses lives, and there was no room in it to put a big lamp. There was a huge chandelier that stopped any lamp from a massive chandelier in the middle. And I said to him, you know, we went down there several times, and I was like, oh my God, you know, I don't know how I'm going to get this beam of light. I couldn't disguise it in the canopy. It wouldn't have been right. It had to be for Edward coming out of the foyer. So anyway, cut a long story short, he did it again. He walked in there and met the committee who run the apartment, charmed the pants off them, and they took the chandelier down. They took this huge chandelier down, and I could hardly get it in, but I got a 20K right. I think it was a 20K. It's either a 20K or a xenon. I think it was a 20. I didn't want to put the xenon in their eyes. But managed to get it through, just about through the foyer, and that 20K wound full up in this foyer, smashed through and hit them, and that was it really, with the Wendy playing down the street in the background. And I also, a lot of the night scenes, I got them to put steam in.
Right.
So we had, you know, New York, you have to have the steam, especially on a 50s noirish thing like this. So we had steam pipes coming out the ground and light around them. Yeah, we just built it up. And then, but the other thing that Edward did on that scene was he got the local authorities to turn out all the lights on Fifth Avenue, which is where it was. Right. I mean, that's like, unbelievable, it's unprecedented. Yeah. He had them turn them all off because he couldn't get this, because we talked about it, it's so bright there. Washington Square Park is just over there, and it's all neon lit at night. And never mind the rest of the paraphernalia, it's so bright. So we got them to turn that section, that 2-block section, more than that, 4, because it swings round with Randolph's car. There's a shot of it coming right round like this. So Edward managed to persuade them, charm them into turning off all the street lights, all the shop lights, all the apartment building lights. People were going over there saying, can you turn them all off? And they did for us.
Well,
I know. It's pretty impressive, really. There you go. I mean, he's a local. I mean, he lives there. But he's also Edward Norton. Yeah.
There's a scene, the scenes at the very beginning, actually, when Bruce Willis Frank goes into the...
the stakeout.
Yeah, the stakeout.
Yeah.
which is very sinister and
Yeah.
dark, dramatic.
Very noirish.
Silhouetted.
Yeah, black
whatever.
and white almost.
Is that, how did you go about imagining, conjuring up and imagining the visuals? For
Well,
this?
it's really, I think it's imagining it, conjuring it up is what Edward's doing in the phone booth, because he's imagining what's going on in the room.
Yeah.
The room's got no reality to it,
Yeah.
really.
So
we
it's
know
his
there's a phone in the drawer, but he's only listening to that. We don't know what that is. So we never really, we don't go in there realistically, physically. We're only there through the imagination and sharp ears of Edward listening.
Yeah.
So it's what he's imagining. Yeah. So we thought we'd do it in quite a stylized way. That's on a stage. We did that on a stage, and obviously with views out of the real window down onto the street, because there's a few of those. But I hung 2 cameras off a bungee rigs from up there on the stage, and we kind of floated with them. So there's nothing really fixed at all. It's all floating. And then there was like serious focus pulling going on to keep them soft, and then like edge of a brim of a hat. And it's an imagination. It's Lionel thinking. Yeah. Lionel thinking about it, and to give it that slightly dreamlike imagination. Yeah.
Very nice.
But that's how we did that.
I'm going to open up to the floor. Now, the young gentleman here.
He doesn't want to ask the question anymore.
Are you ready with your question? He is. He's been waiting patiently. Thank you.
Hi, Dick. Thank you very much for coming, and it's a pleasure to meet you. I'd love to hear more about how you lit the swimming pool sequence regarding the water reflections on the wall.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, the thing about the swimming pool, it's like we were talking before about keeping it real. That swimming pool had these fluorescent, very old-fashioned, God knows where they're from. They were filthy old things that were up there, these tubes, fluorescent tubes dotted around. And when I saw it, I thought, we just go with that, and it would give it, just let everything else fall away and just have the lighting like that. I had to block out, because we were doing it during the day, because the other scene's quite quick. At the beginning of the film, where he's swimming and he comes out, dries off and goes. But the end scene's quite major, and so there was a massive canopy, a massive skylight up there above that swimming pool. Very beautiful swimming pool. Obviously, it was in the film. You see it, but there was this massive skylight, and I got them to tent it in the skylight, and then put a big diffusion up, like a 20 by, something like that, and bounce lights off it, so that we kept an ambience of nighttime across the whole pool. So it's not just the fluorescent tubes around the perimeter of the pool that does the work. It's this very soft, low burn blue light that's coming as if from a nighttime through. We don't know. We don't ever see the glass up there. But that's what I did. And the ripple effect, I can't remember what units I use now, but fairly big, because I did it right from the other end of the pool, fairly high up. Obviously the correct angle to go into the water and kick back up into their eyes at the other end of the pool. And I really only used that to get into their eyes. I thought it'd be fun to leave their, this Godfather darkness on their faces and just pick up their eyes with the ripple of the light from the water. So that's how I went about that. It's just I had, for the whole shoot, I had to have a young runner just wafting a little bit on the water at the other end of the pool, so it kept rippling. And at the beginning, I just remember he was going like this, and it was making it all dance around. I was like, no, but slow it down. We just want the feeling, no one's in the pool, There's no one disturbing the water, just a sort of soft ripple. And so that's hopefully answers your question. That's how I did it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you have some other questions from the audience? Yes, we have a young lady over here.
I'm just curious about working on films where the script has derived from a novel, and if you read the novel, and if there's any kind of, I don't know, just the written language can be very, very visceral as well. And I'm wondering if you take any references from that.
Okay, so if I'm asked to do a film and it has been adapted from a novel, and I haven't read that novel, I never will. I might go back to it in a few years' time, but no, I never do, because my whole I'm 100% locked on the script, and so anything else is a distraction and not one that I'm really. I don't feel that it's right that I get into perhaps what this could have been, or I preferred it there, or there were aspects of it which I liked. I think it's best left out, really. Of course, it works the other way, because sometimes I read a novel, I read a book, and I absolutely adore it, and when you see the film, you don't.
Sure.
So, that works for me, and there was criticism of the film that it wasn't a true adaptation of the novel, but for me, to hell with it. I don't have nothing to do with that. It's to do with the film, and to do with that job.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we have some further questions? Oh, there's a hand up. There's a hand up just at the front here. Gentleman at the front. Thank you.
Thanks. Obviously, it's a kind of a trope of noir that the protagonist tends to get beaten up a lot, and you kind of very often
isn't
went
a pastiche of noir. It's no pastiche. It's got a modern edge to it, which I in a way, the noirish thing. It's a bit of a misnomer, really, a little bit of a red herring for me. I mean, it's been labelled that since it was first seen, the film, but actually sort of, to me, it should have been black and white on celluloid and big shadows going up the wall, and it isn't like that. It's got a modern take on it on the 50s, say.
Yeah, it
feels
evokes
them, but
it feels like it plays off of those tropes rather than following those tropes. But I noticed each time that he kind of got beaten up, you kind of went to a first-person perspective, where somebody was either hitting the camera, talking to the camera, and there was some quite fun stuff with kind of focus becoming clearer, which
That's right,
I couldn't quite see how you'd done that. I just wondered if there's anything interesting to talk about there.
Well, the operator I used in New York, Craig Hargison, his name was, very fine operator, New York's finest, I would say. He just got on the ground and and looked up with the camera not on his shoulder, but just supporting it like that. And mostly those shots were done like that, with him hand holding. Because there's another one where he's beaten up in the alleyway outside the club. There's one that goes like that, and he did that just on handheld. Pulled over. He was really good at bringing up stuff like that. So yeah, they were handheld, really, mostly.
And there was one where he wakes up in the trumpeter's apartment.
Oh yeah.
And the way the focus kind of came in at the start, I just wasn't quite sure how you achieved that effect.
Of the
focus becoming clear. I didn't know whether that was my instinct would be to kind of unseat the lens.
It was done in camera. It was done in camera. That was a real location. I came in. It was completely closed out, the backyards of these buildings, and I was able to get. There was a fire escape over there, right over there, and I was able to get a large lamp out there on the top of this fire escape, and I just blasted it against the windows to give like his effect on his face, waking up on a sunny morning. And the focus was yeah, we did quite a lot of that with the focus. There's also other places where we play with the focus, but the focus was brought forward onto the trumpet player as we came into the room, so to speak, from Edward's imagination of him having a dream on Brooklyn Bridge. Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions? Nick.
Amazing, Dick. Thank you so much. And you've told us so many wonderful stories and explained so much. So I haven't really got any questions, but it was amazing. I suppose the only question would be something about, have you seen this on a HDR set with the black, proper blacks, without the kind of grey of the projected scene, OLED screens and stuff like that?
Well, I'd come when we did the timing in New York. I returned to London before the HDR version. 'Cause there was mixed messages. 1 minute there wasn't going to be one, and then there was going to be one. I was already in London by then, but Adam Inglis was in New York because I know what he did. Adam flew back to New York because he had to do other timings for all territories. The usual. Right down to a square format, whatever, and so he was there, and he did an HDR version of it, just straight across HDR, and Edward absolutely loathed it, hated it, and because it made all the the film is so lit and there's so many street lights and little lights, and it made everything pop. It made all the lights pop terrible, and it didn't look any more, no longer like we'd shot it. So Edward was really perturbed by this, and he had to do an HDR version. So what happened, it was he had to do press in London. He came to London, and Adam and I sat with him in London and looked at this, and I got to look at this HDR version a few days before, and we had some time in the DI suite, and basically what we did was we went in and we turned it off. It turned everything off apart from the fact that it was still HDR, and so we did have these really great blacks and this depth and a luminosity almost. I mean, it was very fine, but without all the attributes of up there. So by turning it down really low and keeping it there, we got. I'm sure it wouldn't be the same with other films, but it was on this. It just spoilt it. So by taking it down, we got the best of both worlds really, and everybody was really happy after that, and it was a great success. The HDR, was a great success because there were things in it I hadn't even seen before, things that came out from doing it that were really advantageous. So I think using it selectively is probably a very good thing on certain projects.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. The most exciting thing about the HDR is actually the blacks, the shadows, getting that really rich darkness. And yes, you're right, the highlights. But they've got better now with the grading of those. So they've got the lever, haven't they, that will bring that lot down. So it's more like SDR.
They didn't really have that when we did the HDR for this. They had a lever, but that lever was basically just winding the whole thing down. But even with it set low, it was really great. So I'm very happy with that.
Look forward to watching it.
And certainly I was talking to Roger a lot after 1917 about his experience on that and doing his Dolby Vision on it, and that sounded really exciting, and that he was really happy with that, but and had been very unhappy about HDR before, but the Dolby Vision seemed to work really well.
I think a problem is we don't have anywhere to go and watch it on big screens.
Yeah.
In the UK, we don't have anywhere that is dark enough.
Yeah. Oh, certainly not in most theatres. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. I know. It's the bane of my life.
Yeah, it's one of the perennial problems with HDR that they can't. They're all trying to figure out the viewing
How to turn them off.
experience. Well, not just in the grading suite, but what people are going to be watching on at home. But yeah, thank you,
But
Nick.
great work, Dick.
Do we have any other questions? I'm sure there's time for another question. Ah, yes. Audra, we have a question down here in the...
Good evening, Dick. I wanted to ask you about the spotlight on Alec Baldwin. Was that your idea, or?
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Yes.
And the shadow?
It was in the Plaza Hotel, and in off the top of Central Park, a very grand ballroom, and we had very limited in time to get stuff into the place, and so it as well as being very, I didn't realise how effective it was going to be when I first put it in there, but it was like a metaphor for his power, and but the rest of the room I lit with just like 6 China balls with I think there were 2Ks in these big China balls, and they were strung on wire. We weren't allowed to touch anything. There was nothing you could touch there. So, but they would allow wire between the chandeliers. So between them, I did 2 China balls, 2 there and 2 back there. So there's a line of China balls, and lifted the place, as well as all the practicals and the spotlight on him, and that was it really. But yeah. It was quite fun to work with that, and it was a good angle to have his the shadow of him.
Yeah, it worked really well, I thought.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Good.
Are there any further questions? I've got
That's
one.
all right.
I have one.
Oh, good.
Which is, obviously you've had a lot of A-list talent in that film.
Yeah.
How did that affect...
I'm sure Edward had a lot to do with that as well.
Yeah. How did that affect the schedule?
Tricky. There was a lot of... they all had commitments. I seem to remember Gugu having to return to London, us having to do other things because she was involved in either BAFTAs or... yeah, it was at that time of year, February-ish. And... yeah, actors with other commitments. There were actors in the film who were on Broadway in plays who had to, Cherry Jones, who played the activist with the glasses in here, she was on Broadway. So every night she had to wrap at 6 or whatever and be off in the car into Manhattan. And of course, if we were out on the stage, it'd be a lot earlier than 6. To get to her. So yeah, I mean, nothing really that was unusual, but you know, the more talent, so to speak, A-list talent you have, the more likely they are to have many other commitments.
Yeah.
But no, it was okay. We're fine.
Do we have any final questions from the audience? There's a gentleman at the back, but our microphone person's gone, so yes.
I can't hear you. Sorry, no, speak up.
Oh, actually, if
no, it's okay.
The mic's going to come.
I'm kidding.
The mic's going to come to you if you. There we go.
Can I ask a rude question? What was the budget?
I think the budget was 23 or 24 $1 million, something like that. Quite low. Certainly quite low. Not so low here, but very low there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and 46 shooting days, and The Irishman was 180 or shooting days. It was 4 times as many on The Irishman. 4 times. Can you imagine that? 4 times as many, and 100 and...
8 times the budget?
Well, yeah, what do you think the budget was on that? 100?
Yeah.
Was it 100?
For some reason,
I think it was more than that.
150 is
Yeah, I think it's more
ringing
like
in
that.
my head, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
I think it's more
Could be
like
wrong,
that.
but yeah. Do you have another question? One more question? No? Oh. Yes. Ah, the young lady. We're going to make this the final question.
Yeah, I really like the jump cuts, kind of paralleling Tourette syndrome, and how much of that was discussed kind of before? Was some of that more post decision?
No, it was post.
Was it? Okay.
Very much so. He might have had it in his mind's eye, but that was very much a decision in the cutting room. Okay. And they did all sorts of trickery on this, which apparently is used quite a lot now, where they would cut frames out of a shot. They would just tighten it in the middle of, like a pause between lines. They would just tighten it and then marry it through the magic of CG or whatever, of an effect, and make those frames, all those frames, disappear in a perfect marriage, so you can't see. I thought, God, the mind boggles. So if someone's taking their time to deliver and you want to get on with it, you just cut the frames out. Yeah. You don't have to cut to another shot anymore, you just chop the frames out. Really. So I know they had all that.
Well, one last question.
Following her question, was ever considered doing it without the Tourette syndrome?
Oh no, I wouldn't know that. Absolutely wouldn't know that. I know that in the book, he's got Tourette's. And that's probably about the only thing Edward hung on to in the film, I think, from the book. But I think that was...
What was always there?
No, I really don't know that. It was always Tourette's during my involvement.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but I'll keep thinking what it will be the movie like without that. Because a normal character will be...
It would have been a different movie,
yeah,
but it certainly wouldn't have been this one.
Yeah. Anyway.
Thanks, man.
Great. Well, thank you to everybody for coming.
Let them go
and
home.
Also, thank you to our master cinematographer, Dick Pope.